Chapter 5, 194, Plan Activated. Translator. Chibi General Editor. Chibi General. Strong winds blew and snow wreaked havoc. Demon Blood Hill, which used to have dark red grass growing all over, was now a scene of whiteness. The lofty hill also had surrendered to the power of 10 years' blizzard, appearing weak as a baby. Roar, roar, roar. Enormous figures that were as tall as 30 feet appeared and disappeared in the blizzard. These were monsters that only appeared during the blizzard, snow monsters. These snow monsters were stronger the larger their size. A 30 feet tall snow monster could battle a rank 3 goo master. 40 feet tall had the strength of a rank 4 goo master, and 50 feet tall had the terrifying power of a rank 5 goo master. Following the blizzard, the snow monsters began to devastate the whole of northern plains. They slowly converged together and attacked several surviving areas of northern plains, bringing destruction to the dying humans and living beings. But there is a weakness to everything. Snow monsters were snowmen's prey. Snowmen could rapidly propagate by devouring snow monsters' meat and blood, even prolonging their lifespan. Heibai and Heichung stood on the summit of the Demon Blood Hill for a while. Their black robes were exceptionally conspicuous in the white snowy land. Beside them were corpses of hundreds of snow monsters. Unless snow monsters that had reached the height of 60 feet appeared, even in great numbers they could only be trash, throwing away their lives when fighting goo immortals. Heibai and Heichung had already waited for a long time now. Suddenly, Heibai's expression shook as he got a response, his sharp gaze looking at his left. There, maelstroms of wind and snow started to form in the air. Within a blink of an eye, they turned one by one into whole giant hands formed from wind and snow, flying snow hand. After the enormous flying snow hands condensed completely, they grabbed at Heibai and Heichung. "Ha, we have been waiting for you." Heibai laughed brightly and flicked his finger repeatedly, sending out large numbers of rank 5 goo worms. Heichung also made his move. The enormous flying snow hands grabbed goo worms, and soon each of them clenched tightly. The snow hands crumbled apart, while the goo worms inside disappeared without a trace, captured tightly by a power that took them into Imperial Court-blessed land. Hei Tribe's 2 goo immortals did not resist in the slightest, and let the goo worms be taken by the flying snow hands. Such a situation lasted for a whole hour before all the rank 5 goo worms were captured away. Heibai and Heichung only then stopped, looking at each other with a smile before flying away rapidly, disappearing into the horizon in a blink of an eye. Support has arrived. After some time, Heilulan got a response. His gaze burned as he gazed above at 88 True Yang Building. At the peak of the sacred palace, an aurora was shaking. The 68th floor was still condensing, with the 100th round already being formed before. The still not formed 68th floor was only in its embryonic stage. The aurora around it continually shook like liquid, holding the large numbers of goo worms captured just before from outside the blessed land. A part of these goo worms were wild goo, whereas a portion came from Heichung and Heibai, 2 goo immortals. 88. True Yang Building chose the strongest among them to form the 99th round, 98th round. Heilulan carefully sensed it for a while before slightly frowning. The 2 from Hei tribes have already made their move, but that Shui Songzi is still biding his time. He had bribed Shui Songzi to reach an agreement. One of the contents of the agreement was Shui Songzi help him at a designated time period. However, Shui Songzi was not showing any signs of movement at present. Heilulan was displeased, immediately sending a letter through a goo worm. Soon he received the reply. In the letter, Shu Songzi complained about how the 2 goo immortals from Hei tribe were pressuring him these days, and how his snowman business had taken a dive, already running at a loss. He also added how he had already supported Heilulan with many rank 5 goo for wooden chicken goo some time ago, and it was beyond his power to send support now. Lies! Heilulan was furious, almost pinching this letter goo to death. There is indeed no one good in the demonic path. They all are treacherous and sly bastards. But soon Heilulan's anger subsided. Truthfully, he had predicted this. After all, he was only a mortal, while Shu Songzi was a lofty goo immortal. A mortal dealing with a goo immortal was like an ant negotiating with an elephant. The two were simply not at the same level. If the goo immortal refused to acknowledge and reneged back on the promise, the mortal could do nothing about it. Heilulan was secretly worried. The 68th floor was in the process of condensing, and the longer the time went by, the weaker the effect of a goo immortal's support would be. It seems I need to first obtain wooden chicken goo to make Shui Songzi help me, Heilulan sneered, immediately sending an order to convene everyone. Wooden chicken goo was on the 39th floor of 88 Truyang building. For months now, Heilulan's efforts had been concentrated on this floor. He also had Shu Songzi's help, thus the progress was very smooth, succeeding in pushing to the last round. Wisanda wooden chicken goo was exactly the reward for this final round. This last round, it was difficult in a sense, but it was also very simple. What it tested was patience and putting in effort over a long period of time. Heilulan had personally led people and attempted the round for 40 to 50 times altogether, now already having grasped its details. Every time he would progress slightly, and the accumulation of such progress gave shocking results. He was only a paper-thin distance away from success. This is good too. Grasping this 39th floor would raise the morale for when we tackled the 68th floor. Heilulan thought for a while and immediately took action. The next day, he mustered large numbers of people, convening all the goo masters in the sacred palace, and held a pep rally. That very evening, he led everyone and successfully broke through the 100th round, obtaining rank 6 immortal goo wooden chicken. Just like Heilulan expected, the breakthrough of the round raised morale and fighting spirit greatly, sweeping away the haze of Tai Bai Yunxing's defeat. With immortal goo wooden chicken, Heilulan's confidence rose greatly, and he used it to lure Shu Songzi into helping him. 7 days later, the 68th floor had completely taken form. Heilulan impatiently led everyone to charge into the floor. However, after arriving at the floor, he did not tackle the rounds anxiously, instead commanding the goo masters to spread out. Over 100 refinement path, goo masters were included in the troops. These people were all carefully selected, and their loyalty could be trusted. Although they had not attained master level, they were elites. The refinement path goo masters formed a round formation upon which Heilulan slowly walked into the center. He sat down cross-legged and took out the two-edge owner token. The two-edge owner token slowly flew into the air, and at the same time, Heilulan's body also began to let out gray light. The light rays were sharp as needles, piercing into the air. Not only Heilulan, the remaining refinement path, goo masters also let out sharp gray radiance. These needle-sharp light rays continued to strengthen, becoming thicker and longer, flooding the whole round formation. The individual needle-sharp rays started to touch each other, instantly linking together. A giant gray radiance slowly stretched out from the round formation, directly piercing into the two-edge owner token, which was floating in the air. Outside the round formation were large numbers of goo masters spectating this while guarding against emergencies. "What are they doing?" a young goo master asked in confusion. An aged senior beside him patted his shoulder. Hey, this is the ability of super tribes. Kid, watch properly. The next scene will make your eyes open and jaw fall down. As he was saying this, the owner token suddenly shook. The tremor was weak, but following the dissemination of the giant sharp gray radiance, the scope of the tremor quickly increased. By the time this tremor spread to the round formation, it had already become a heavy tremor. The gray light rays condensed in the round formation like a light lake. From this heavy tremor, the lake suddenly erupted with dazzling light, forcing everyone to narrow their eyes. The gray light shone on every corner of the first round's area. Just like the melting of snow, the world in the round gradually started turning transparent before completely dissipating. It was like a cover had been lifted, and as if the second layer underneath was revealed, Heilulan and the group arrived at the second round. We actually passed the round without even making a move? After a moment of silence, many young goo masters started making a big fuss. That young goo master from just before had eyes wide open and his jaw hanging down. What in the world is this method? The aged goo master beside replied with satisfaction, this is a refinement path killer move that all super tribes have gray meltdown. It can be used to rapidly pass rounds in 88 true young building. Kid, the scope of your vision should have expanded, right? The young goo master, whose vision was expanded, nodded his head non-stop and praised, amazing, truly an amazing method. But what do they need us for with such a method in their disposal? The aged goo master's smile turned forced. This method is not effective every time. Some rounds can be crossed with this method, while some cannot. Stis, this trick is quite interesting. In Fang Yuan's mind, Mo Yao revealed her body. Her posture was enchanting, and her eyes had a hint of seduction. She mumbled to herself in an analytical way. This should be digging into the hibernating will of Giant Sun's control, attacking with coordination from both outside and inside. The goo masters outside the Blessed Land would release goo at certain places, and these goo worms would be absorbed into 88 true yang building, refined into the rounds. But Giant Sun's will is hibernating, so the speed in refining the goo worms has become slower. At best, they can only be considered half-refined. The so-called killer move Gray Meltdown uses the owner token to connect with the half-refined goo worms. As such, the core of the round will be directly refined. The round will naturally not be able to continue anymore and switch to the next round. To do this, the crucial key is time. The state of the half-refined goo won't continue for long. Even if Giant Sun's will is hibernating, as long as there is sufficient time, it will completely refine these goo worms. In the case that these goo worms are refined, the goo masters tackling the round cannot induce any reaction, and the chance to forcibly refine them would be thoroughly lost. Heh, you are indeed a refinement path grandmaster, being able to analyze so thoroughly with just a glance. Fang Yan laughed in his mind, not stinting on his praise towards Mo Yao. To speak bluntly, this method was fighting with 88 true yang building to refine the goo worms. If Giant Sun's will was awake, the goo worms would be refined instantly, not leaving behind any opportunity. But it was hibernating now. The refinement had become slow, and as such, there was a loophole that could be used. Fang Yuan was from the future, thus he knew this clearly. In his previous life, after Central Continent's Goo Immortals had broken through Imperial Court Blessed Land, they had shown this method in the image clips they had disseminated everywhere. But this method could only be used as support. What Central Continent's Goo Immortals truly relied on was still the Glass Owner token. This secondary owner token could be considered a divine treasure. Who knew how much energy and resources Central Continent's forces had to spend for it? And now it was in Fang Yuan's possession, raised to 6 edges. Taking advantage of everyone concentrating on the second round, Fang Yuan secretly took out the 6-edge owner token. He stroked the 6 edges of the owner token and sighed, muttering inwardly, such a long time of planning, and now it is finally time for the plan to begin in full. Flying bear strength goo with my flying bear phantom goo. Isn't that what it should be? Heh, I also think so. With that and a thought in his mind, he instantly grasped control over this floor.